Hi, you guys. So this is an explanation of the past perfect. As you're used to when we talk about verb tenses, I will discuss form, use, and we will practice. Let's get started on the form. And remember, if you want to take notes and I'm going too fast for you, you can always press pause down there. And you can also rewind, of course, if you want to make me say things again. Let's start with form though. Let me zoom in. So, what is the form of a past perfect? What does it look like? Well, you've got had and then a PP. So, for instance, had danced. You might wonder what a PP is because it's not a word we use a lot in class. PP stands for past participle. That probably still doesn't explain a whole lot of it. A past participle is a voltooid word. How's it formed? For all regular verbs, you add ed, basically how you make a past simple as well. So the PP for walk is walked. If it's irregular, yes, they're here as well. Then you use your third column. Think of, for instance, to be. Second column is your past simple, was, were. And in the third column, it will say been, B-E-E-N, and that's your past participle. Let's zoom in a little bit on the details of this one though. How do you negate it? How do you form questions? Actually, that's quite simple. It's kind of the way we do it in Dutch, because had is our finite verb, persoonsvorm, and had is a special verb. If you don't know what I'm talking about with special and normal verbs, I recommend watching the video on how to make questions and negation in general, which will also go into what's going on with special and normal verbs. For now, so how do you negate the sentence I had danced? Well, you simply add not to had. I hadn't danced. And if you want to form a question, you just invert the subject and the verb, had I danced. And that's the whole thing. So that's not too hard, right? I always like it when things are simple. Shall we practice then? Yes, let's practice. Here are 5 sentences for you. Please fill in the forms. While you do so, put me on pause, and when you're ready, you can start me again and I'll take you over the answers. Okay, you've started me again, so I'm going to assume that you were done. Here we go with the answers. So we were looking for had seen in the very first sentence, had because it's past perfect and it's always had, and seen because to see is an irregular verb. See, saw, seen. Oh yeah, there we go. PP is seen. In sentence number 2, again, had, and this time been because we needed the past participle to be. To be, was, were, been. Yes, another one of those irregular ones. Then in 3, we get our first negation, where we use hadn't instead of had. And we have a regular verb here that we need to do in the past participle. So we add our D here, changed. If you don't know why it's just a D, then I recommend watching the video on past simple, because there I explain all the spelling rules. In 4, we have a question. Very simple again. Add had before Mr. Smith and died after it. And again, just a D in this case because the word ends in an E. In 5, they had closed the restaurant. So again, had plus a PP. If you would like to practice this a little bit more because you notice that it's not quite in your system yet, I really recommend this assignment right there. It's on English Hilfe, which is my favorite website anyway. It's got a great exercise on everything, and if you try this one, it'll allow you to just do the forms of the past perfect. For now, I'm going to go on to the use. So when do we use a past perfect? Well, we use a past perfect to indicate that something happened before something else in the past. So something happened in the past. For instance, I saw her, but before that had happened, she had seen me. If we make that into a timeline, so I'm going to try and visualize this a little bit. There we go. We have a blue bar where we have time, so you can see that the past is there. And the further you go to the right, the further you go towards the future. And the further to the left, the further back you go in the past. So we place the I saw her in the past because it's our past simple. And then the past perfect, she had seen me, happened before that, as you can see. So first she saw me, and then I saw her. And because that seeing me happened first, you need your past perfect phrase. Wow. Okay, so whenever you're using past perfect, basically you need to figure out which of the two events happened first. Quite often, when we do this in a mixed tense assignment, this will be a sentence with two gaps in it. Not always, because we are sneaky. For most verb tenses, there are really good keywords. The past perfect does not have very good keywords. They don't really work all that well. You can find some lists on the internet if you like. But the best thing to remember is that it will be some kind of word that orders things in time, because the one is before the other. So words like before, after, until, and as soon as, when, and by the time, those are typically words you'll find in a sentence with a past perfect. But not exclusively, because when is also quite commonly used for a past simple, for instance. Okay, that's basically all I can tell you about the theory. It's time to practice a little bit so I can point out how it works in real life. Here we go. Let me show you a couple of practice sentences. So there are 5 sentences. In each of the sentences, you need to fill in a past perfect and a past simple. So one of the gaps is past perfect, the other gap is past simple. You need to try and figure out which of the two events happened first, and then decide, okay, so that's the one that happened first is my past perfect, and the other one is my past simple. To do so, press pause again, so that you have the time to figure this out. All right, you've started me again, so that means you're probably done. Let's go to the answers. Here we go. In sentence number 1, first Grandma does the reading of the book, and then she goes to the museum. So she had read, and then she went to the museum. In sentence number 2, we have one that doesn't really have 2 gaps, actually. Before 2002, I hadn't been to a Disney park, which basically means, okay, before 2002, that's my time period in the past. That's my point on the little timeline that says past. And before that moment in the past, I hadn't been to Disney park, so past perfect there. Sneaky one, right? And I tried to trick you there. Then in number 3, another one where I tried to trick you. Okay, first Jack and Jill had breakfast and then they went to work. Of course, that was probably not the hardest part, but you may be surprised to see that the past perfect of to have is indeed had. I know it sounds ridiculous, double had, but it is in fact the past perfect of to have. So after Jack and Jill had breakfast, they went to work. Then in 4, first Joshua went to see those monkeys, then the penguins. So when Joshua had visited the monkeys, he wanted to visit the penguins, where of course the monkeys come before the penguins, so that makes sense, I think. And in 5, I liked seeing the beautiful landscape of Ireland, which I had heard about so often. So first I heard about it all the time. People were talking about, oh, Ireland, so pretty, so pretty. Then I went and saw that it was indeed very pretty. And I really liked it. So the hearing was before the liking. And that's the way you need to think about these past perfect sentences. Which one happened first? I can imagine that maybe you want to practice a bit more, so I'm going to refer you to my favorite website again, Englishhilfen.de. I do not have shares in them. They do not give me money to endorse them, but I really, really like that website. So you can practice a little bit more there if you like. And otherwise, I'm sure your teacher will give you homework. We do that a lot. So that's all I wanted to tell you about the past perfect today. I hope it helps in whatever you're studying at the moment. And I'll probably see you for another video soon. Bye bye.